Question is on air pollution, and it's from Assembly Member Qureshi.
Thank you. This is we're starting right over here, aren't we? Okay, I thought we'd just done air pollution.
Question 6.
Thank you, Murad. We are, as you know, going through a series of very, very ambitious measures to reduce air pollution. And I just, I think Londoners will, you will certainly have heard what I've just said. I just repeat the answers. Emissions are down by, of the particles are down by 15%. Emissions of oxides of nitrogen are down by 20%. The numbers, this is a really important statistic, the number of Londoners living in areas exceeding legal limits for NOx has halved from 3.6 million to 1.7 million, in spite of, obviously, of a massive increase in population. And we already meet the targets for regulated pollutants in 8 out of the 9 cases, and we are determined through the measures that we've set out to beat the problem.
Okay, Mr Mayor, can I just make one point to you from the round table that I hosted last week, where Professor Jonathan Grigg spoke, and he said, there is tremendous inertia which frustrates me enormously to see kids in Whitechapel. By the time anything happens, their lungs will have been damaged. They will not have obtained their maximum growth potential. In 10 years or so, they will suffer all the effects we now see coming through, increasing vulnerability to a range of respiratory disorders in childhood, and goodness knows what that leads to in terms of vulnerability to diseases in later life. It is clearly outlining the effect it's having on young children in our city.
Agree. It's a point you might make to John Biggs, by the way, who wants to have a third runway at Heathrow.
Can I just finish? I haven't finished my question. Should you not bring forward, by at least a term, your ultra-low emission zone proposals, given that you kicked it into the long grass anyway till 2020?
No. Look, I mean, I understand what you're saying. By the way, I think my point about all Labour support for a third runway at Heathrow needs to be seen in the context of what you are rightly saying about the threat to air quality. The pollution impacts, not just aviation fuel, but the vehicular impact of a third runway at Heathrow in West London would be catastrophic for air quality. Now, on the 2020 deadline for ULEZ, you've got to be fair to people, you've got to be reasonable. People buy cars on the assumption that they're going to last a certain time. You cannot put in measures by 2016 or whatever, or 2017 or wherever you would like this to begin, when people in good faith have invested in a very, very important, very, very expensive piece of kit on the assumption that it will last for many years to come. So we're being absolutely straight with the public about where we want to go. We're giving what I think is a reasonable deadline. We're giving the manufacturers a reasonable deadline, and we're giving them enough time to start to make the changes to their factory tooling up to make sure that they are producing the kind of models that people will want, the plug-in hybrids, the range extenders, and so forth, by 2020.
Mr Biggs, you may feel you've been misrepresented.
To a personal explanation, I resisted the first time round, but just for the record, I'm not a personal, passionate supporter of a third runway at Heathrow. However, and I'd follow what Mr Malthouse said, I think we're considering a range of options, and we need, in the end, to latch on to the least worst option. And were we to have such an option, it would have to have safeguards about noise, about air quality, about pollution, and I would simply observe that the greatest cause of poor air quality at Heathrow is from surface access, not from the airplanes themselves.